Hello, this is Sarah Brush, and I want to show just a little bit of cleavage for my videos from now on. I'm going to get back to making videos all the time. I think this is just the right amount. I don't want it to be too X-rated. But anyway, so I want to do one final quick video tonight before I go to bed. And this video is going to be about Yale President Peter Salovey. So he stepped down at the end of the last academic year. And he, of course, stepped down because the truth about the witch hunt at Yale is getting out. And so now what's happening, he just wrote this asinine, absolutely ridiculous article about institutional neutrality. And so what's happening right now is that, you know, all of the universities and colleges, especially the elite universities like Yale, Harvard, Columbia, they're all getting in so much trouble because of the pro-Hamas mobs terrorizing Jewish students on campus and celebrating the October 7th terrorist attacks in Israel, and then there are still, you know, hostages in Gaza being tortured and raped, and this includes American hostages. So anyway, so they got in so much trouble for that. They're still in trouble for that. So many universities and colleges are adopting the policy of institutional neutrality. So new president of Yale, Maurie McInnis, she created this completely ridiculous, ludicrous, asinine institutional neutrality committee to decide if it's institutional neutrality is a good idea. Like, do you need a committee to know that institutional neutrality is a good idea? So, I mean, for the leaders, of course, obviously, you know, in their capacities as professors and students and staff, you know, that they have free speech, and, you know, they should be free to speak on whatever, you know, issues of the day, as is their want. But the leaders of the university, you know, of course they should be adopting a position of institutional neutrality, and I'm going to briefly explain why. But so I'm going to do so many more videos about this, but this is all part of the ruse on the part of new Yale president Maurie McInnis to evade responsibility for Yale's gross malfeasance over many years, including perpetrating the BLM Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax against me and using me as their Nazi to perpetrate this hate crime hoax so that they could justify implementing their new vast woke DEI and CRT industry bureaucracy belonging at Yale. So this is all why, you know, Yale president Peter Salovey wrote this asinine, ridiculous recent article saying, you know, he doesn't support institutional neutrality, right? Well, of course he doesn't support institutional neutrality because he made untold illegal statements about me, you know, so that he could perpetrate this hate crime hoax at Yale, so that he could use me as his Nazi, so that he could justify implementing, you know, his woke DEI and CRT industry bureaucracy belonging at Yale, which made anti-white racial terror against oppressors okay again. And that's why Jews are being terrorized by pro-Hamas mobs on campus. So, like, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and he did it to smear Trump. And so, of course, he's opposed to institutional neutrality. Like, what could be more antithetical to institutional neutrality than the Yale administration perpetrating a hate crime hoax against me because they thought of me as this poor white trash interloper at Yale, and because I was a hardcore civil libertarian at Yale who had infiltrated the inner sanctum of wokeness, so they wanted to oust me as a heretic. So like, because they wanted to smear Trump, and because they wanted to establish, this multi-billion-dollar industry, and Yale had been the epicenter of anti-white racial terror for years, and now they're the epicenter of, anti-Jewish discrimination and pro-Hamas mobs terrorizing Jews on campus, and Jew hatred. And so this is completely the opposite of institutional neutrality. So of course he's opposed to institutional neutrality. And this article he wrote is so ridiculous because he pays lip service to the Woodward report from Yale, which is sort of akin to the Calvin report from the University of Chicago, which is basically, espousing the idea, which I believe is correct, that a university should be upholding, even a private university should be upholding the First Amendment of the Constitution, and should be doing its utmost to further academic freedom and free speech. And so the reason, and so what, and this is a really stupid argument that people try to make, and that also Michael Roth, the Wesleyan president, has tried to make many times, including at Yale, is that, well, if we're supposed to be supporting free speech and academic freedom, then the president of the university should be able to engage in free speech and academic freedom too. But this is completely asinine and stupid thing to say, because the whole point of institutional neutrality is that it's just like, basically the establishment clause, of the U.S. Constitution, is that government, it cannot make the statement that one class of citizens, is like a greater or lesser, has a higher or lower citizenship status, and access to rights than another class of citizens, right? That's the whole point, is that it's illegal for the government to make a statement like that, to say that, you are a lesser tier of citizen, of U.S. citizen. And so this is why institutional neutrality is so important. And it's the same thing for leadership at a university. Now, of course, a public university, is basically when the public university speaks, when the administration, when the leaders of the university speak, they are the government speaking. So again, they're constitutionally bound to adopt institutional neutrality, right? They can't say that some of their students are greater or lesser citizens than other of their students, right? Because they're speaking as the government, they're part of the government. So of course, a private university isn't bound to the First Amendment in the same way, although the Department of Education has implemented a rule that if they've adopted free speech policies, then they have to abide by their own policies if they receive federal monies. And of course, this is the case for Yale. So, but of course, the leadership needs to adopt. The only way to ensure academic freedom for everyone and free speech for everyone is if the administration and the leadership adopts the principle of institutional neutrality. And nothing could be more obvious, right? And there's just too much incentive, because there's so much money. There's just too much incentive for moral monsters and bigots and frauds and liars like Yale President Peter Salovey to perpetrate BLM Living While Black race hoaxes, to make that woke DEI and CRT industry money. And so then, of course, when he does that, he's giving carte blanche to the rest of the woke DEI and CRT profs to go ahead and perpetrate their own Living While Black race hoaxes against students whom they consider to be poor white trash interlopers. So they consider them to be subhuman and worthless and disposable, which is what Yale did to me. And so many Yale profs did to me, including at the Justice Collaboratory at Yale Law School, of course, which I've written about extensively. I don't want this video to get too long, but my point is that Yale President Peter Salovey is a liar, a bigot, a fraud, a moral monster. He has been trying to drive me to suicide on a global scale, vilifying me on a global scale for the past 6+ years. He needs to be fired. He needs to issue a public apology to me. He needs to pay restitution to me. Yale does as well. I'm still going to file my Section 1981 federal civil rights anti-white race-based discrimination complaint against Yale. But my point is that of course Yale should be adopting institutional neutrality. I will have so much more to say about this. Please understand, of course it's in his self-interest to argue against institutional neutrality, but please understand why he's doing this. And so I will have so much more to say about this. I don't want this video to get too long, and it's probably time for me to hit the hay. But I love you all so much. Okay, take good care of yourselves, and I'm gonna do a whole bunch. I'm gonna get back to doing videos all the time now, and I love you all so much, and I will talk to you soon.